7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming soon. Snake River Manufacturing is developing a revolutionary new way to design and build a custom kayak trailer. This modular design lets you customize your trailer one piece at a time, allowing you to grow as you go.
Hello, everyone. This episode is also brought to you by Vibe Kayaks. Whether you're chasing the perfect catch or just craving some peace of mind on the water, Vibe Kayaks is your ride to freedom. Built for all skill levels at any water, fresh, salty, or somewhere in between, Vibe delivers premium kayak performance without the drama or cost. From the ultra versatile Shearwater 125 to the throw and go agility of the Makana 100 to the ultra portable inflatables, every Vibe kayak is crafted to elevate your experience on the water. So gear up, get out there, and do what you do. All right. Thank you all for joining me. Unfortunately, No Bad Days Kayak has closed their doors. They've been passed along to someone else. We're going to reach out to them and see how things are going. We wish Forrest and his team the best of luck. If you get an opportunity, go to Snake River Manufacturing, check out their kayak trailers. Steve and the crew are doing some amazing things. Going to get you to the water and some amazingly crafted kayak trailers. Also, check out vibekayaks.com and get yourself a nice throw and go or a tournament rig like the Shearwater 125. All right. This is episode 25. The gentleman we have on tonight, he was gracious enough to be in the Holiday Buyer's Guide last year, give us some of his ideas of what he liked and what he recommended for all of the anglers that are either starting up or just want to take their rigs to the next level. We have Rus Snyders with us. Hello, Mr. Snyders. How are you?
Doing good, Roy. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks for coming on. It was it's always awesome to have someone who of your caliber grace us with your presence. So, for those anglers out there or non-anglers that don't know who you are, if you give a really brief description of who you are and what you do, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'm Rus Snyders. Live in Pegram, Tennessee, just west of Nashville. I've been tournament kayak fishing for about 8 years now, and travel all across the United States, really doing Bassmaster, the Kayak Adventure Series, Team Kayak Series, Native, and used to do the Hobie tournaments as well on KBF.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I was looking through. I put the title of this episode as "Guide to Greatness," and I know that greatness is a title in which you don't necessarily want to give yourself, but I think that you've reached some pretty high levels, so I feel it's fitting. So we're going to start with your early days. You used to be a guide, correct?
Yeah, started out. I guess I started out tournament fishing and then got to kind of a crossroads where I was running a little low on money and needed more of a stable income. So it was probably mid-20s or so when I started guiding and built the guide service every year. Did it for about 5 years. I was living out in California at the time, and I would guide a lot of the Delta, Clear Lake, a lot of the Northern California lakes, Sonoma, Berryessa. There's a couple lakes down just south of San Jose, Calero, and Anderson. Mostly those lakes, and really enjoyed doing it, and got to the point where it was hard though where I was living to make good money from it, because I was traveling so far. I'd run to Clear Lake, which would be 2.5 hours for a day or two, and then run to the Delta, and gas in California was pretty expensive, and just maintaining a boat. I was guiding out of a Ranger bass boat at the time. And but yeah, eventually moved out to Nashville, and with the intentions of getting back into guiding, really. And I also have a power washing business, which I've done since I was probably 20 years old. So I've kind of run that along with my guide service. Just some years doing the power washing more, some years doing more fishing. But yeah, my whole life it's always kind of been a balance between the fishing and the power washing. But yeah, moved out to Tennessee and got into the kayak fishing, and a couple years into that, ended up selling the bass boat and kind of just fully committed to the kayak thing now.
So what got you? So for myself, I don't know how I would even get the confidence or the ability to make the decision to become a guide. Were you sought
It's an
after?
interesting story. Yeah, so what happened actually, the first, I didn't really think of it too much. It kind of happened, I think everything kind of happens for a reason. And right at the time where I kind of lost my savings trying to, make it, doing these tournaments and paying for repairs for the boat, local tackle shop that I used to work at when I was a teenager, Fisherman's Warehouse. It's down there near San Jose. They just gave me a call and said, "Hey, we got this guy that comes in here. He's actually he worked for Google. He lived over in Korea, and he'd come to Fisherman's, or he'd come to the Google headquarters there, I guess quarterly, once every 4 months. And he'd be there for about a week, and he was really into fishing. And and they asked, he went into the shop saying, "Hey, is there anybody here who has a bass boat just so I can do some guide trips with?" And it was, like I said, those lakes down there in Silicon, they're kind of just south of Silicon Valley area there. And there's some good bass fishing in there. So they called me up and say, "Hey, there's this guy who wants to know, he's looking for somebody to take him out fishing." And didn't really think of it, or no, I was probably 25 or so at the time. But I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take him fishing." And I didn't really know what to expect or think of it, but we had a really great time. And we went out a couple more times, and then it was around then that I was like, "Hey, I should start, get some supplemental income, some not just power washing every day, and still get out in the water and fish and get to meet new people." Took a lot of kids, a lot of fathers and sons. Took a lot of, like, it's kind of either like fathers and sons, or couples as well, a guy and his wife, or a boy and his girlfriend. Or sometimes I'd even do kind of like business meeting stuff, since it was kind of near the Silicon Valley area. I would do, instead of people like going out on the golf range for half a day to discuss business, they'd just go out on the boat, out on the
You're like
lake.
writing down what stocks. Oh, what's that?
Yeah. There's a little of that too. Or, sometimes prep for tournament guys, especially out on Clear Lake and stuff. I always had a lot of success out on Clear Lake. So people would, if they were coming from out of state, I'd get hired by them too, to just kind of point them in the right direction as far as for their tournament.
Were you an early, I don't say early adopter, but were you like one of the first guides on the lakes there, or?
Oh no, Calero and Anderson, those are smaller lakes, but there ended up being a kind of a good market of that, just because of all the people going into, in the Bay Area there, just how many people go in there for business and work, and there's not a lot of options. Like where I live, the closest place to go bass fishing was, besides, I guess that was about an hour from my house, an hour south, and the Delta would be the next closest thing. It was like an hour and a half. So it's nothing like, now that I moved to Tennessee, man, you go like 10 minutes, you can go, there's bass fishing everywhere. But where I grew up, it was right by the bay. So I did a lot of striper fishing. My dad had a little ocean boat, and we go out for salmon and halibut. But really my passion was bass fishing at an early age. And the only opportunities I'd get really was when I'd either go on camping trips, or, once I hit like 17 or so, I started doing tournaments with my dad and with another fellow out there as well. But
now I saw somewhere that you used to do a lot of kickboats. Now my question to you is, do you miss going out on a kickboat?
I did, yeah. When I first moved out here, they definitely have their advantages over the kayaks, and mostly the only place where I'd say they have their advantages, it's in the smaller creeks. Like if you're going to do a float trip, because if you hit stagnant water, that's a problem, because you're just going to wear out your legs. But as long as the water flow is pretty consistent, on these bigger creeks and like smaller rivers, I think they're really fun, and I think ideal and easier to even maneuver and navigate than a kayak, because you can sit there in the current seam and just start moving your feet, and you could be in one spot. I can turn around, I could sit wherever I want to be, and I'm even stealthier and completely hands free too. But where it's difficult is if you get too much current and you get snagged and you have to try to kick up to get to your lure. That's one of the disadvantages in the kick boat. But another thing that's great about the kick boat is like when you're floating, you can literally just stand up at any time. And there's little foot pegs, that you can rest your feet on, but they'll hook onto your shins. So I'll be going down the river. It'll be, kind of medium moving water that's maybe a foot or two deep, or I'll get on the shallow side as opposed to the deep. So there's always like the shallow side and the deep side of the creek.
Right.
But any time I could just stand up and I can make a few casts and then I just sit back down and then I'm going. I mean, but it's like instant. It's not like in a kayak where it's you stand, out of your kayak and then you either need to hook up a leash or have to, it's a lot more effortless in that kick boat. So it's fun. I used to do, there's a couple rivers out in California that I do some kick boat trips in, and when I moved out to Tennessee, that's kind of what I started getting into, the Harpeth River and the Buffalo River, the Piney, and some of these out on the west side of Tennessee or of Nashville here. Started doing that. I'd even just leave my bike at the takeout and just do solo trips because I don't really know anybody out here. So I'd leave my bike, I'd lock it up, drive back up, do about a 6 to 8 mile float, and then lock up my kick boat and ride my bike back to my truck. So
it was quite the workout.
I got some exercise out of it too.
Now, do you still own a kick boat?
I do, yeah. I had a little fun trip with just some of the friends. We didn't really fish. We just down the Piney during one of the little rental places, and I was trying to get my kick boats we had a group of like 7 of us, but I couldn't find the little air valve. I haven't used them in about a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know, but I love them. They're fun.
Yeah, imagine the kick boat for you is like the throw and go kayak for me.
Yeah, no, totally. It's just lightweight, and there's just definitely a lot of advantages of it.
Yeah, I don't fish a lot because I'm always behind the computer doing something that is. I make the joke with almost everyone: start a fishing business and never fish a day again in your life. That's what I feel like.
I've seen it happen, yeah, especially with like tackle shop owners and stuff, and just all the stuff going along with that.
And I get to where I'm going. It takes me like 45 minutes to set this rig up, putting the units on and the power pole and all the pieces and all. I'm like,
it's a lot of work. Yeah,
I could have just grabbed the throw and go, been out there paddling. Because usually what happens to me, this isn't I could tell it doesn't happen to you, but I'll go fishing and I won't catch anything.
That happens to me too, trust me.
But,
sure.
So at what point did you get out of the guiding business?
When I moved, I again got in this kind of situation where just California, where I was living, was just way too expensive, and just traveling. Had a strong passion for fishing at an early age, and knew that I wanted to continue that, but I was in a place where it wasn't really feasible. I mean, just to go, like, for instance, if I wanted to go to Lake Berryessa, I had to cross 2 bridges. I had to cross the Bay Bridge and the Carquinez Bridge, and each one would be a $20 toll for having a double axle trailer. So before, $40 just in bridge tolls, and then $5 something a gallon for gas, and then the registration, insurance, everything. I was basically just power washing. The guiding was more just breaking even, as far as paying for the repairs on the boat and the gas, and it's pretty much breaking even with the guiding and really just making my income off the power washing. So if I wanted to live in an area where I can have more of a sustainable lifestyle and be able to fish more,
a little more freedom.
Yeah.
Now, when you moved, did you do any guiding when you moved, or did you just go straight into tournaments?
I had to start my power washing business and grew that to, the first 3 years. I was just kind of going out in the kick boat, and I still had my bass boat too. I was barely using it. I did 1 year where I did the BFL tournaments, the FLW BFL, just like the Music City, like local division. I did pretty good, and I won one at Old Hickory, and so I did a handful, maybe 6 or 7 tournaments out of my bass boat, maybe my second or third year here, and then that was kind of the end. Then maybe 2 years after I got into I wanted to start a guide service really with the kick boats. Like I was enjoying it so much, and it's like this could be really fun. And then joined a local kayak club, KBFTN, Kayak Bass Fishing Tennessee. That's
Mhm.
local around Nashville area there, and really just wanted to meet those people to find other people to do float trips with, and be able to just kind of put my name out there, and be able to eventually start like a guide service. But after the success I had in those tournaments, I started doing more national tournaments, and yeah, here I am today, I guess. But I want to get back into guide. Like the plan, it's hard with all the travel, and
Yeah.
I don't have a I don't have any kids or girlfriend or wife or anything, so it makes it makes it a lot easier being able to kind of live this nomadic lifestyle. But if any of that were to change, like I'd probably go back to guiding and just do a few tournaments a year, and just run around everywhere like I've been.
Here we go. All right. There we go. Unmuted you.
Hey,
You know what? No worries. I was told I watch a lot of Chuck Earls and some people like that, and he was trying to do a bunch of elaborate stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, this one thing isn't working." I'm like, "That just shows you're real people, right?
yeah.
Stuff happens."
Comes to me and technology if we don't get along sometimes.
Yeah, no worries. I was talking to the people. We had some what Steven said, the joys. Um, Nothing like a live show, live podcast.
How's that? All right. I got some. All right. We good? You hear me all right?
Yes, you're perfect.
All
Okay,
right.
so when you made the transition from boat, kickboat, now into kayak, what was your first kayak?
There's a Wilderness Systems Attack
Mm-hmm.
120. Craig Dye, he was the guy. He's a tournament director for the local club, KBFTN, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the kayak he was using. And he was one of the top guys then, and yeah, he sold me on it. I was seeing the way his style of fishing, and at the time I was like, that's the one I want. It just came out at the time, so I was fished out of that kayak though for like 7 years, and then moved on to Bonafide. Now I'm fishing out of a PWR 129, and I have one of the RVR RVR 119s as well.
Nice. Yeah, I like the Bonafides make some really nice kayaks.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any plans of looking into the XTR, or is that just a little bit too much?
Maybe there's certain situations. I think the PWR fits my style of fishing the majority of time.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I think I'd want an XTR is if I was in a scenario where I'd really want like spot lock. I was fishing offshore, smallmouth somewhere, or just having a bow mount motor and spot lock.
Right.
I heard it does great with the Torpedo, with the stern mount motor as well. I know a lot of guys that are putting those on them and fishing out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a smaller guy too, and I think not that it'd be overkill, but I just don't see how I'm so comfortable in that PWR, and it just fits my style of fishing so well that it's hard to see, except for that scenario. We're having something like spot lock, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
really fish that way a whole lot, anyways. So
Or if you're going to go in some really big water, maybe.
yeah, that PW. I've been in some crazy water. When we were free fishing at Lake Fork, I was in some wild stuff.
Yeah.
The waves were breaking over and literally just filling up my kayak. Could be under. I had so much weight. I have so much weight in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like underwater and it'd come back up, and under like the waves were crashing over the kayak. It was crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a pucker moment.
It was, yeah. At least it was warm out.
All right, so we're pretty much at the midway section. I know we had a little brief intermission, but Kayak Coffee has sponsored a question and answer period midway. So everyone that has asked a question is entered in a competition to win a free pack of coffee from kayakcoffee.com. We have a series of questions that have been asked, Mr. Snyders. This is from Steve Burge. His first question is, as you've progressed through your career from guide to tournaments, what do you feel has been the most impactful change to the fishing community as a whole?
Most impactful as just my perspective as a guide and a tournament angler, I guess what has been an impactful change. I mean, there's always been changes in the industry when it comes to like technology and stuff like that, and some of that is for the better, and some of it's maybe for the worse. I know the live scope controversy has been a big thing, and it's still, there's going to be still a lot to figure out with technology advancing, just where we go with fishing, and does it just take a lot of the, staring at a screen and looking at all that, just take a lot of the element of figuring it out, for yourself, and the mechanical skills and skill set that you need to fish otherwise. And so that's been an impactful change. Some would say for the better. Some would say, they don't like it. But as far as changing, it's a lot's changed just in the industry. I remember when I was growing up, like as a kid, just how impactful like those shows were. Like it was called the International Sportsman's Exhibition shows, where all the vendors, and they still have big shows, at the Bassmaster Classic, but there's definitely a transition in that where there's less people actually going physically to things. There's just so much information. Like before, you have to go to those shows to listen to there'd be seminars and stuff like that, and everybody would sit around, and there'd be the big bass tank, and you'd cast in the lures, and they'd talk. That was like one of the way, there wasn't a lot of access to all the information. If you wanted to hear stuff from people, you had to go there firsthand and go to like a seminar and stuff like that, where now we can do all these podcasts and all these things online. Biggest thing to change just society in general, not just fishing, those is technology for sure. There's some arguments where it's for the better, and some where it's, you lose a little bit of the camaraderie of like going, all physically being in places together. And a lot of it's more virtual and online. So there's some change as far as that aspect of it. But as far as guiding, I don't know, guiding still pretty much. I would plan to hopefully transition back into that someday, and I don't know if that's necessarily too much different than what it would have been back then. And as far as that part of the industry, or and there are changes in tournament fishing, but overall the game is still pretty much the same game as that was played, 30, 40 years ago. So, yeah.
Awesome. His second question: in kayak fishing, is there a specific change you would like to see in kayaks in the future?
I'm interested to see where they go. Now with this XTR coming out, and a lot of people saying it's basically like a little mini bass boat. I saw a little video today where I think is it One Objective, or makes a outboard bracket, or maybe it's Catch. I'm sponsored by both, and they both make similar products. But somebody made a bracket where you can put a little 3 horsepower outboard, and it's not just like, where do we stop from there? It's like a 16-foot, kayak, bass boat, hybrid, whatever it is. And it's, as long as it gets people out in the water and they have fun fishing out of it, I don't see it as a problem. But there are going to have to be considerations for just where you draw the line of what is a kayak at this point and what isn't. And I know I miss, and a lot of people miss, the days of just paddling, just having a like physical, the Hobies, the fact that you didn't have a motor still, and it was still, there's a physical aspect to it too, was something that I know I liked, and I know Drew liked that. And but at the same time, on those windy days, man, when you have a motor, it makes it from an enjoyable, what would be a frustrating experience to an enjoyable one by having a motor a lot of times too. So I don't know. I don't know where, as long as I can get out and have fun and fish, and whatever people, whatever direction they want it to go, I'll go along with it. Yeah, there is, I do worry about the fact that we are seeing numbers, dropping in a lot of cases, and people back several years ago, just having a paddle kayak could go in and enter and feel like they'd still have a chance to win. In a lot of cases, they can. They might be limited to where or how they could fish, but I could tell you, like, Drew did it for years and did well, and I know I did the Hobie tournaments paddling
Hmm.
for a while there until they finally allowed the motor that last year. But I know that, and with all the advancement in electronics, and it's like it's hard. It's it's changing from what it was to what it is now. But but I like the more competitive aspect of it, and I like the fact that yeah, I mean, I fished out of a bass boat at first before I got into the kayaks. So to me, it's just more of a feasible. It makes sense, and it's more of a feasible
Hmm.
way to have the same. It's only like being in a bass boat, but you don't have to worry about the maintenance and the headache of maintaining and owning,
Oh
um,
yes.
and the gas and everything that comes along with the bass boat. I don't see how I'd ever get one again. But
Yeah, it's funny when they're like, "Oh, they're putting outboard motors on these kayaks," and I'm like, "My new canoe and the pamphlet shows it with a motor. Like that was one of their things. Like I feel like New Canoe made this huge vessel that had all the options that people are complaining about, but they did it under the radar. Like it's the unlimited. You could do this if you want,
mhm.
and then the PWR comes out. They're like, "Whoa, no, a motor? What? Yeah, the XCR. Sorry, yeah, the XCR. Is like you could throw an
It's
outboard on
really
it.
about the same size as it's just a different shape, but if you
Yeah,
take the width of it's I think shorter than a 14-foot pro angler, and if you
hmm,
take the widest width of the pro angler, it's about the same, or maybe an inch or two wider, but
hmm.
I think it's pretty similar. But instead of being kind of pointed at the front and then coming wide and coming shallow, it's more like the shape of a boat where it's just wide the whole way out, and you have all this deck space, and
Yeah,
but it makes it
I
easier.
think when Hans took that picture with the forced perspective where it looks so huge in front of him, that just triggered so many people like, "Oh my gosh, it's a full-on skiff," you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So, it was great marketing, killer marketing. Everybody started talking about it.
yeah.
But yeah, the forced perspective on that was well played.
They're selling the crap out of them, man. I mean, they
Oh
are.
yeah.
They're selling. I'm surprised, really. I mean, I thought that I definitely saw the market for them, but I didn't realize that they're selling way more even than the PWRs, probably 4 to 1. That's just me guessing, but from what I kind of hear talking to Music City Outdoors, a local
Mhm.
kayak shop here in Nashville, it sounds like they're selling probably 4 to 1 those things over even the PWRs. Yeah.
All right, Steve's next question: What do you feel is the biggest differences between East and West Coast bass fishing styles?
Um, Bass, like I grew up in the West Coast out in California and traveled all up and down California, Arizona, a little Oregon and stuff. And it's I was fortunate. Just I mean the guys who get to grow up in that area, especially Northern California, just how versatile the fisheries are. We get a little bit of everything there. Where like the
Mhm,
California Delta is really shallow, a lot of vegetation and reeds, and it's tidal, and there's a bunch of riprap, and it translates to it. There's a lot of areas I go across the country where I'm like, oh, this just reminds me of the Delta, except without tide, throwing that tidal aspect of it. But that really helps you learn on just how just that dropping and rising and dropping of water.
mhm,
And you do get a little bit of that just from, I mean, in general, just even on the Tennessee River, there's small fluctuations, which it kind of makes bass, it's like having tidal swings as well in some cases. But from that to these deep, clear reservoirs like Shasta and Oroville, predominantly like spotted bass, and some of the, just in that area, and then Clear Lake was a natural lake, and there's a little bit of everything there, some shallow weeds and rock piles and ledges, and so just in that small area of Northern California that I grew up, it can really translate to a lot of areas all across the country. And I think like East Coast and West Coast, I'd say, because there's such a huge void of bass fishing after you kind of leave the western states, as far as
mhm.
Colorado and Wyoming, and there's a little bit in Arizona and New Mexico, but pretty all those kind of central Midwest states too. It's not until you get to like Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas and all that. I don't know if it's kind of, even though it's the central, I kind of put that as the East Coast, and the West Coast has always had their separate, because like Utah, yeah, all those states there don't have a lot of bass fishing. All the tournament series have always been kind of separate, and it's always been hard for them to get a lot of support for big national tournaments. So because of that, they just had to have their own kind of thing out there. But there's other parts of the country where you only have like one type of fishing. You go to Florida and all you have is shallow vegetation lakes. And so, so somebody from a lot of other parts of the country, it's hard to go onto a national tour and feel, in your comfort zone, no matter where you go. Northern lakes have their own kind of, style, and this,
Right.
like yeah. So that's one good thing about, I guess, the West Coast growing up there, and some of the differences. The one difference I would say that I wouldn't see out west is, especially on a Tennessee River, is how shallow bass will get. Like even this tournament last weekend on Nickajack, there were some brim beds that when I was in practice, they were maybe in like a foot and a half of water or so, and then the water dropped, and they were in like 6 inches of water. And it was, I mean, a lot of times you'd be sitting there in like 2 or 3 feet looking around, seeing nothing, and you had to look like shallow, like boats couldn't even get close probably.
Wow.
And they'd
Yeah.
be waking in 6 inches of water. And that's something I would never see out west, where when I come, especially to Tennessee River, it'll be a shallow flat with no deep water access, and they're still shallower than you could even think they could get. So that's one difference I'd say that I had to kind of adapt to, or learn moving out here.
All right. This is from Jay Angel. He said, "Could you please give us a few words about how it felt to be up on the Bassmaster Classic stage? Was that the pinnacle of your career so far?"
Yeah, that's super awesome that Bassmaster, a few years ago, decided to take on, having a whole league for kayak fishing, and they believed in us, and believed, they got Steve-O as a tournament director and believed in him, and just what he's done to grow it to what it is now is really incredible. And I'm so grateful for people like him, or Drew, all the tournament directors that sacrifice so much just to give opportunities to anglers like myself, and all the other kayak anglers out here. And Bassmaster is definitely able to take it, I think, to a level that nobody else can. I'm grateful for Chad Hoover, getting it off the ground, really having this vision and creating. He was a big part of what
Yes.
created what it is today. And but I think you can only do so much. Drew can, Bassmasters, such just a reputable organization, and they've have the ability to get so many people that just have a love for bass fishing into the kayaks, and kind of give us a spotlight. And being able to do that, on given that spotlight for the Bassmaster Classic stage before all those anglers came up is something really cool. And I would consider it, the pinnacle what I've accomplished in the kayak fishing world, for sure. I've been up there 3 times, I think, so it's super grateful for that, for sure.
It's a whole nother view from the stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Stephen Kidd. How do you feel about the Team Kayak Series format compared to the Bassmasters?
Yeah, I'm Gene Jensen and Michael Musgrove, I've started the Team Kayak Series. It's sponsored by a lot of my sponsors too, which is a big reason I really want to support it, because we, both sponsored by Bonafide and Yak Attack and Dakota Lithium and Catch Outdoors. So and all those companies are companies that have just been big supporters of kayak fishing tournaments for a while now. So yeah, I'm stoked that they put that on and give us opportunity. It's a team series where it's a little different format than the traditional, just like 5 fish each day. I'm paired up with Paris Edwards, he's been fishing the local kayak tournaments that I used to fish, the KBFTN. I haven't fished them too much since I've been traveling so much doing these national ones, but he's been killing. I think he got Angler of the Year the last 3 years, so he's been killing it. And we've been in touch over the years here, and he said he put out a post, saying he was looking to, get into the Team Kayak Series, and 3 of the 5 tournaments were on the Tennessee River, which, Gunnersville, Kentucky Lake, and Nickajack are all within 2 hours of me, and especially with the Hobie tournaments going away, there's a little bit of a void for more room on my schedule now, so I decided to. And they had a tournament at Lake Murray too, is the one they kicked it off in South Carolina. So yeah, we decided to team up for that. We fished 4. We got 1 more left. It's going to be up at the Susquehanna River. But it's to get back. I'm going all over the place here, but the format's different because it's 10 fish as opposed to 5. But it's 10 fish over the course of 2 days. It doesn't matter which day. It doesn't matter which team partner. So it can be one guy that catches all 10 in one day, or it can be, a mix of both. This last tournament, Paris and I each had 5 fish towards our limit. So it's pretty 50-50. And I know Wyatt, he's won one. That one at Lake Murray. He won 2 of them, him and Justin Faircloth, but he had a giant limit on Lake Murray and won the whole thing, I think, in one day himself. And same thing with this last one. Justin got one. Justin had a killer day too. Just Wyatt's been on a tear this year. It's been crazy watching him. He's won some big tournaments. He won the Bassmaster Classic on Fork, and a couple of these Team Kayak Series tournaments with huge bags too, like well over 100 inches.
Yeah, we have Michael Musgrove on and talking about it. I absolutely love the format of the TKS. I love the fact that they could just, you and a buddy, it brings back that we were talking about earlier, the camaraderie, the fishing with a buddy type of situation.
And it's one of the few tournaments you used to be able to talk on your phone, during the tournament to your friends or whoever, and then they did away with that, and it's a good argument for that. But in a team tournament like this, when it's not an individual, it's actual team, I like that you can still communicate, and kind of, even if you're fishing, we were both fishing different areas, doing very different things. So in this case, me saying, I caught it, he was catching them on a crankbait. I'm like, really? I'm like, I'm gonna try that, and I couldn't get a bite on it. But other times, like it's fun working with somebody else. I like that, any type of team atmosphere. And we do the Team USA, when we've done some of the international tournaments, went to Italy last year, and we had the Pan American Championship here in Cookville on Center Hill Lake, and Team USA, just working. We're all working together and helping each other out. So it's a fun aspect of it. And even when I have done the tournaments in the past, we've had the Dakota Lithium House and all those guys, I've become really close with. And we definitely, it's nice learning from people and helping them, offering what you have to help them become better anglers too.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. If you get teamed up with someone who's a next level, like if it were a random draw and I got teamed up with you, you'd be like, okay, I need to teach this guy some stuff so that he's a little better, and then if I happen to stumble upon something, I'm like, hey, I'm using a jitterbug. The beetle spin is rocking, whatever.
I learned a lot from Pear. I know I helped him a little bit. He was losing some fish on a crankbait, and I was kind of going over some stuff, and it sounded like he was just setting the hook too hard. Like, I'm like, man, just real load up and just kind of lean into it more. And the second day, he wasn't losing hardly. I think only lost 1 fish, and so that's helped him. And he's definitely showed me some he does some different stuff, man. He's new to bass. He's only been bass fishing for like 5 years, and has been killing it. And he definitely thinks outside of the box, and sometimes not having all this information on, this is the only way to do it. He shakes a jig really crazy, just constantly shaking his rod, fishing a jig, but deep, but almost swimming it still just off the bottom. And just some weird just cadence stuff with chatterbait, with all the different lures, just some really weird cadence stuff. I think it's
if it works, right?
Hey, man, he
That's
catches them, I'm telling you.
all right. So this is from Steven as well. Even though you're one of the best kayak anglers in history, who's who's another angler that you look up to in the industry?
There's a lot of guys that I know. I look up to Drew Gregory just in his work ethic. For I don't know how it's humanly possible for him and some other people too, just to have the workload of doing all the like having their hand. And Marty Hughes is another one too, where it's just like he was running like a kids tournament yesterday, and he has certain lures and baits that he's selling. Plus, he's doing guiding. Plus, he's doing social media and like
Mm-hmm.
video. It's like Drew's like that too, where he's just like go 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 go, and I try. I'm not as good at them. There's certain things I am good at, but having that big of a workload and having a family, like doing that while you have a family, like and kids, I'm like, how is that even? Like, how's that even
Yeah.
possible? I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine having that schedule and the family.
Yeah, no, I don't know how it's. Yeah,
So
yeah, be on top of things.
this is from Philip Huddock. He said, "What motivates you to keep going, and why do you do it?"
What motivates? I mean, I just love the sport of it. I think it's a fun game to play, and the fact that it's
Mhm.
just this competition of like figuring out nature. Really, it's not just about just catching the fish, but it's just being in tune with
Mhm.
the outdoors and with the weather changes and the water clarity and the fluctuation, the other and little bait that they're feeding on and all those things. It just I don't think I'll ever lose my love for that. And the time, I mean, I've won a lot of tournaments, and times I'm like, all right, but like, is there anything to like accomplish anymore? I kind of went through that phase of like analyzing all that and what do I do from here. But I'm just come to the realization that I love being out there and fishing. I love being around people and helping them, teaching them and helping them learn and making friendships through these tournaments and through, finding people with similar passions as mine. And those are the people I want to kind of surround myself with. So,
And do you feel have you always been that way where it was because I know myself, like when if I look at my path in life, when I was younger, I was not the I want to help everybody. I was the more like spunky firecracker. Have
uh,
you always been like the I want to help people, or have you sort of like as age progresses, you become more of the mentor versus the
that's
um,
something I've been, yeah, recently, just in the last couple years, just been more aware of that and more, and really, when I guess it's a little bit of a I did do a lot of that just through guiding and stuff like that, and I had such
mhm,
it just gave me a lot of satisfaction and gratitude. Just it was a good feeling. I got a good feeling from all, especially kids and stuff, just helping
mhm,
kids getting into the sport. And for a while, sometimes the tournament fishing, it is a bit of a like self-centered kind of can
mhm.
be, a little bit of a self-centeredness or lifestyle to it where I do miss, I miss all that. I miss all the guiding, and I've been doing, I'm taking some kids out fishing lately, and so my friend's nephew, and I've been talking to more kids and stuff, teenagers that have been getting into the sport and offering, to if they need help with anything, just let them know to reach out to me at any time. And I think there's, as I get older, I definitely um, see myself putting more and more energy into helping others rather than myself. Right now, I got to pay the bills too, so
Yeah.
there's also that where I don't want to.
So on that note,
Um,
my question is because I look and I see you're always on the go, and I see other people they're always on the go. Are you? And you've already mentioned that you have the pressure washing. Do um, you own that business? Correct.
yeah, it's just me. I've been power washing since I was worked for some other guy. When I was a teenager, the guy that I did tournaments with for a couple of years, he owned a power washing business. He's maybe 15 years older than me or so, and he taught me a lot. And from then, he moved, and I started my own business back when I was probably 20 or so. And just having that, just having a job like that or a business where you can have a flexible schedule. And at one point I did, I was growing it where I had a few employees but then it just became this whole different thing where I'm responsible for all these other people. And it's a lot to manage. And maybe I was making a little more money, but at the same time, like it was just causing a little more stress. And I like the aspect of, I've been doing it so long now that, I can look at jobs and know exactly the process of I've done
Mhm.
it so many times. Like I know exactly, which jobs to kind of turn away from or that could be red flags and stuff too. So I've learned to, know when to say no to jobs too. And luckily, and it's something that's flexible where I can, have a chunk of like 2 weeks. That's a lot of times what I'll do is I'll travel and do tournaments for a month, and I'll have like a 2 week period where I'll pretty much cram all my power washing jobs. I'll be getting calls over that month period, and tell them, okay, this is my window of 4 jobs, and I don't have to go inside their house or anything like that. So it's even if they're at work or whatever, it makes it pretty easy where I can go there and knock out a few jobs, and usually I'm not at a job site for more than like 2 or 3 days, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, and something that fits really well with having this lifestyle, doing these tournaments and stuff like that.
Now, have you ever gone on a job and somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, Rus Snyders is pressure washing my building"?
It hasn't happened.
No?
There
One
was
day.
one guy when I first moved out to Nashville. His name's John. He was a police officer, and um, for Nashville PD there. And as I was power washing, I saw him pulling out. As I was getting ready to work, he was pulling a brand new bass boat out of the garage. John Wells is his name. But yeah, I made friends with him and did a few tournaments uh, with him for a while. So it was a cool fishing connection I made while power washing. We did some of the what's it called? It's I can't think of the term, but it's the police firefighters and like EMTs.
Mhm.
I can't think of the name, but they'd have their own tournaments just for all of them, just out on Old Hickory. So we did that for a couple of years together. Really
Like
enjoyed
a
that. Learned a
fraternal
lot.
or a police type thing?
Yeah, it was a term I forget, but yeah.
You'll remember it. My memory's like that. I'm like, "Man, we'll poof, go off air. You'll be like, oh, it's this."
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, the other thing, I've watched a couple of podcasts, because I like to try to, get a feel of things. And I noticed one thing that when you start talking about it, you like light up. And I watch you when you're talking about your lure making. So it seems to be something that's a very passionate thing for you. So can you show us a couple examples of the lures you make? And
I had more in the room we started in was my little like tackle craft room.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I've been just started out making jigs probably when I was like a teenager, and then started getting into spinner baits and um, buzz baits, a lot of stuff with a skirt, and eventually got into like airbrushing crankbaits. Things all tangled up right now. But yeah, some spinner baits like this. And yeah, have a couple different. I get all my stuff from Cast Industries. It's like a wholesaler they make a lot of different lures are made there at their facilities. But you have to like
Mhm.
buy it in bulk, and it's a big investment at first, but over time it saves you a lot of money. You can kind of customize them. It's like one of the ones with the weight in the middle, and this one here I usually use like a trailer, and I'll put a little
Mhm.
trailer keeper on it. And I got a whole box of just different blades, and yeah, spinner baits, chatter baits. I really like these chatter baits. You can't get these anymore. Cast Industries only had them for like a few months, and then the whole patent thing with Z-Man, they wouldn't allow them anymore. But I wish I ordered more, but I'm running low now. But yeah, it's a great little chatter bait. And then I'll airbrush little crankbaits and jerk baits. I used to get a lot of like the Mega Bass Vision 110s and paint those.
Mhm.
This one's like a little Spro, and got a bunch. This is like one of my pretty early ones. But yeah, yeah, it's nice because you know what it really does is help you learn. I think doing all the tackle craft and building it yourself makes you get a better understanding of like why the lure is working, not just I'll go to the store, this spinner bait by this company and this color work.
Mhm.
You don't really, you just know that it works, but you don't really understand. You don't, when you're building the stuff yourself, you gotta, especially with like a spinner bait, right? There's it's the thickness of the wire, it's the size of the blades, it's the space of the blades between the, top one and the bottom one here. It's the length of the arm from the head to the bend. All those little key components all matter. And when you start
Hmm.
making them yourself and tweaking all that, making it a little longer, or a little shorter, or a little more rubber on the skirt, or a little less, you can kind of see the effects of it firsthand, and it gives you a better idea of what makes a good lure. And the cool thing about cast too is you can customize this. So if I order a spinnerbait, it'll just come with the head and the wire, uh,
Hmm.
but you can change the thickness of the wire when you order. Or you can change the size. It'll give you like 3 different size hooks that you can kind of choose from. Depending on the mold, it'll only fit like certain things. But
So do you pour your own jigs, or do you
I
order
don't
the
pour
jig?
lead. I poured it a little bit when I was hanging out with Cody. Cody Milton, he used to make a lot of his lures and stuff, and
Hmm.
pour some of his own jig heads. And I never got into that just because, like I said, cast, you can get like this spinnerbait head will maybe cost like 80 cents or so, and then to put the ball bearing, this is the most expensive thing. Is like the ball bearing if they're gold plated, those blades can get a little expensive. But I mean, that spinnerbait probably costs like, I don't know, $3 to make or so.
Yeah, and I heard on one of the podcasts the way you paint some of them is with Sharpies.
Yeah, yeah, this one here. I'll show you some of the ones here. It's like a big musky jig. It's probably a good example because it's bigger and you could see it. It's a big old musky jig I tied
Hmm.
here, little round rubber. But the heads, yeah, instead of powder coating it, I'll use Sharpies, and then I just use an epoxy coating over it. It's a DevCon 2-part epoxy, and I'll
Hmm.
put a little glitter, like blue pearl. I bought some like automotive pearl. You can kind of see that blue pearl on there, and man, it's a lot stronger, I think, than the. And I will use powder coat, like this is like the chatterbait that I have, and I'll powder coat it. But a lot of times I'll even put that epoxy, like I did on this one. I'll put the epoxy over the powder coat just to give it another added protection. And I'll also use that same epoxy like on these blades. If you ever buy like painted blades, a lot of
Hmm.
times the paint will chip off, and then it'll start rusting and stuff. But put a thin layer of that epoxy like over my painted blades.
And this is all pretty much personal stock, right? You
Yeah,
don't.
I'll give them away to some friends, or I'll trade. Yeah. I'll-
So let me ask you this, because I could see I used to carve ducks with a friend of mine.
Cool.
We used to go duck hunting, but I never hunted over my ducks. I just carved them as like a almost like a therapeutic thing. It
Oh,
was the
oh,
precision.
yeah.
So would you say that your bait making is sort of like a decompression moment for you from all of the stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just a way to kind of have an artistic outlet, I guess. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I don't even get to make enough for what I would, I wish
Hmm.
I had a lot more time to make more because I really enjoy doing it. But it's usually just in the winter. I've way, but I mean, I'm going to do so. That's a big reason why I'm taking July off. I'm not even going to go to Champlain Bassmaster, or just my stock and my lure supply is dwindled. So I'm gonna try to spend, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 days. Probably 15 hours a day and just make lures. That's usually how I do it. Once I get into it, it's just all day. That's all I'll do, and I'll spend maybe 5 days
Hmm.
doing it or so. I only get to do that maybe. But sometimes throughout, if I really need to make something, like I'll yeah, just set aside a few hours or something like that. But usually I'll just write a list. I have a list going of everything that I've run out of, and
Right.
so I'll probably try to knock a lot of that off at some point this next
Have
month.
you caught any tournament winning fish on any of your own lures?
Most of them, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say any of my spinner baits, chatter baits, swim jigs, chatter, yeah, anything with a skirt, uh,
Hmm.
anything with a skirt, I'll make myself. And then I'd say like my hard baits, probably like a third of them are my hand painted ones, and uh,
Okay.
other ones aren't.
That's awesome.
I
So that's
don't do
cool.
anything with plastics, though. I don't pour plastics. That's something I'd get into. I'd like to get into like rod building too. I think I have a pretty good understanding of, yeah.
Yeah, that's an
That'd be fun.
I've seen some of those, man.
Guillermo's done. He does a lot of rod, and Guillermo
Yeah,
Gonzalez does a lot of rod building. He's really good at it.
that's when they really get into the artistic, the laying of the patterns and stuff.
Yeah.
I look at those cross hats, and some of them are just American flags, and I'm like, how do you, man? You got way too much time on your hands for me. So, but yeah, I mean that's pretty awesome that you have that outlet and you actually putting what you're making to use, and it's quite successful. I feel like you may have a market there if you're winning tournaments on your own baits. I'm just saying.
I made it myself. I like thought about it because it takes its toll even on you just sitting in one place all day and like your hands and your carpal tunnel
Mhm.
and like just doing all that takes a toll on you physically if you're sitting down all the time, not moving around and all that. But it probably only make unless you got to outsource to like something bigger or different. But if you're doing it yourself, it probably only be making like $20 an hour or something like that.
Right. Well, I
Which
mean, with KVD retiring, you might be able to scoot in there and have the
I'd
Rus
like to
Snyders series.
maybe one day. I've always stayed away from being sponsored by a lure company just because I like making my own lures. I don't want to be limited to like a certain brand or a certain so
Right.
other sponsors for other things. But I've always stayed away from any type of lure company. But someday, like if there was a company to believe in me, trust in me as far as design, like being able to design a bunch of lures and have a
Mhm.
whole like I think I could bring a lot to the table when it comes to that, more so than a lot of other guys.
That signature collection.
Yeah.
One day, I'll look back on this podcast and I'm like, I called it. Bam. So awesome. We're coming up just a little bit on the hour mark. I know we lost some time, but I don't want to keep you super long. But I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything you want to go over or anything we've missed? Anybody want to shout out?
I guess all my sponsors, I've gone over some of them, but that, and then I guess I just try to give a little promotion for the Susquehanna. I'm taking July off. I won't be doing
Mhm.
the Bassmaster tournament. There's a Tennessee kayak series at Gunnersville I'm tempted to do, but I think I gotta just get some stuff done here. But
Do some pressure washing because you just finished your kitchen, right?
I'm still in the pretty much done. I'm ordering right now. Just been shopping around for countertops. So yeah, I've been looking at different places for that, and I got to do the backsplash, but otherwise it's done. But I was gonna say both the tournaments at Susquehanna. Just want to do a little promotion for that for the Kayak Adventure Series. That's going to be teaming up with the Native. It's in August, and then the very next weekend is the Team Kayak Series, also on the Susky. So I'm really excited for that. I'm going to spend 2 weeks camping with my tournament partner Steve Baker. We're allowed one substitute in the Team Kayak Series.
Mhm.
Paris and I have done all first four, and you're allowed one sub. So Steve's going to be subbing for Paris for the Team Kayak Series, and he's also been my partner for Drew's Kayak Adventure Series tournaments for that. So I'm excited to camp out with him. And Susky's one of the
Yeah.
best. It's probably at the top of my list as far as favorite places in the country to fish. So any of you are on the fence, or I'm telling you right now, it's a worthwhile place. You're gonna have a lot of fun there, and it's a great place
Yeah.
to fish.
Both of those tournament series are
Yeah,
amazing.
and the native one, I just won the big bass in the Gunnersville Native a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
um, and they run a really good tournament. Vinny, he runs the Queen City tournaments. He's running the native tournaments, and just from the payback, like it's a fun format too, and that's something that's totally different. Where it's a no limit tournament, kind of MLF style, where it's as many fish as you can get over 14 inches, and then they also have a big bass prize hourly, and then for the biggest bass of the tournament, you want a native Titan. Titan X Pro, or what is it called? The new Titan, 12-foot Titan native.
I
Yeah,
think it's the X. Yeah.
X. Yeah,
They're
Titan.
all blending, they're all blending together right now. It's been a long day. You just brought up something I want to ask. So you
Yeah,
say you're going to go camping.
yeah.
Do you camp at all of your tournaments?
Have been this year. Yeah, I don't think
Now,
I've stayed in the house this year.
describe your camping setup, because I know that Country Kids Outdoors Adventures, he's starting to get into camping. You know, he's very. I'm not. If he's listening, I apologize. He's low level right now. He's getting into it.
Cool.
Are you car top tent, or are you like full
I sleep
setup?
in my bed. No, so I sleep in the cab of my truck. So a lot of you guys have seen my truck already, but I pretty much gutted. Besides the driver's seat, I took out the passenger seat, and I have a refrigerator there. And then I took out the back seats, and I put basically it's like 2 giant or 4 storage boxes. It's a big area for storage, more or less, with 2 big compartments. One of them has 200 amp hour Dakota lithium batteries with like a power inverter and a DC to DC charger, so that when I'm driving, that charger will charge my power those Dakota lithiums as I'm driving. I use that to charge my Torpedo batteries, all my other batteries.
Busted.
Your sides, huh?
I said I'm busted.
Oh,
The
the other side's all tackle, and then I have one little cubby for my sleeping stuff, another little cubby for like all my chargers and lights and just other stuff. But I sleep on top of that. So I sleep on top of that storage. There's like a Tempur-Pedic little foam pad on top of that, and I put another just like little air camping pad on top of that, and like it's really comfy. Unless it gets, once it gets really hot, it's tough. I put a fan in there and stuff like that. So when it's a really hot night in the summer, it's pretty tough. But otherwise, it's pretty comfortable. And the way my truck's set up, I can have 2 kayaks. I have my PWR in the bed, and then I have a rack that has rod storage on it, and I can put my RVR up on top there. So typically, don't carry a trailer, and so I have my little fridge. Do a lot of cooking and stuff before I leave for my trip, so I don't eat out much, and makes it all pretty self-sufficient and pretty inexpensive. When I camp, though, I usually bring like a big tent. I got either a big tent or like a big pop-up kind of cover awning or whatever, just to have a dry area to like do tackle and keep stuff in. And yeah.
Yeah, he said Russ needs to do a video on that. I noticed that you used to do a lot of videos, and you sort of just don't video as
I
much.
do a lot of video when I was young. I guess when I was a kid, I did some to promote. That's how I promoted my guide service. It was kind of when YouTube, it was like 2008. It was literally like right when YouTube came out, and I started just posting videos of catching fish on the Delta, and that's really what. Yeah.
I look back in the coffers of videos, and I saw the first one was a massive 144p video. I was like, "Whoa, heavy
44p." What's that even?
Yeah, instead of like 1080 or 4K that we have now, it was 144p was the first, because I was like, "Man, that's like a low resolution," and it was like one of the early on cameras.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I had it was before GoPros were even out. I just had a JVC like camera, and I guess I had a little hard drive on it, or a little SD card. But
imagine content creating.
And strap it on the back seat, and that's how I was doing it before GoPros. And then and GoPros came out, and
Imagine if you're like high level and you're focusing on what's going on, the camera would take away from your extreme focus.
It does, yeah. And I see the benefit in that, and people that do go that route, I totally get it. It's just for me, I'm already, when it comes to technology, I'm it's hard for me, a person like me, to compete, because a lot of it, all the video aspect, the YouTube game, all that stuff, it's like, man, if you're not good with computers and technology, and with me, it frustrates me a lot. So I just feel like it's hard for me to outperform those people when it comes to that aspect of things.
Yeah, I had a love-hate relationship with GoPro, because they were beautiful cameras. They did amazing images, but I can almost guarantee you I would hook up and it would go beep, 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 beep.
Yep.
Overheated. And like,
yeah, that's what's happening. That's a big reason why I'm just like, all right, I'm over it. I have a GoPro 5, a GoPro 8, a GoPro 10. I bought one of the GoPro drones, and I have all sorts of stuff, and I use it, and it just ends up like something goes wrong. Like every time I had another GoPro, where the GoPros get wet, and I burned through them, and my drone broke, and everything. It's just like,
I got to the point where I felt like I was always buying. I needed more things, like, oh, I'm gonna do video. Oh, what I need a Yeah, well, I'll show you one of the things right here. This is one of my handheld rigs for doing video with a phone. You know,
Yeah.
the phone just goes in here. Well, I went from like, oh, I can do video with a phone. Well, maybe I need a hard drive. Oh, maybe I need a splitter to put the microphone and the battery in there. And then
Yeah.
I just run down the
Out of
purchasing
all
rabbit hole.
Yeah, thousands and thousands of dollars that I've spent in that, and I'm like, is this investment of thousands of dollars is making me any money? Or and then when I look at it, I'm like, and the time that I spend doing
Mhm.
it, and no knocking the people that do it, and I said, yeah,
Yeah, there's like you said, they're the ones that there are some out there that just rock it out, and then there are people who just struggle, and there's so many other things to worry about. Adding that next level of um, struggle is not even worth it. So
yeah, and I got to get a video on. I've been trying to do it for Drew's tournaments. I was running a Tacticam for a while, and the one good thing about the Tacticam is I could at least turn it on. If you turned it on and off throughout
Mhm.
the day, it would like mess up. You'd lose a bunch of footage, but you
Oh,
could at least turn it on. If you turned it on once, put an SD card in, turn it on once, and let it run the whole day, it was very consistent. Uh, and then the next day though, I'd have to literally take out the SD card, put in another SD. But at least I have a bunch of that on like a bunch of I have so much GoPro and tournament footage. I'd say at least half of my tournaments. I just throw it on a file on a hard drive though, and I'm like, well, maybe
yeah,
someday I could take all this and put it to good use. But
get an editor. That's
yeah,
the I
yeah,
use.
that's what I'm thinking. Know what I'm thinking, which would be good, is with AI, I'm hoping it gets to a point where I can just plug in the hard drive and explain what I want, and AI can just sort through the footage, all of it, and make the video. If that happens, then
We're probably on the way there. And
that's what yeah,
I mentioned on the last two podcasts about forward facing sonar. You know, they have. I have software at the studio where if I want to make an image, I can just type in what I want it to look like, and it will create it.
yeah,
Well, if you can take the forward facing sonar image and tell it what's in it, then AI can make the forward facing sonar a picture of what you're looking at. And if you can combine those two real time, you could be looking out at the water and you just see the fish swimming.
yeah.
I totally see that as a
Getting to
possibility.
a point where something's gonna break, or
Yeah.
it's gonna come to a breaking point where it's
Hmm.
like enough is enough.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, but back to cameras, I use the Insta360. I love that thing because that was the other thing. Camera angles for me
mhm,
was like, oh, there's something jumping over here. Never got it.
yeah,
Something back here. So
yeah,
on
okay,
uh, my fish finder and my navigation screen, right between it, I have the camera, and it just catches all around. Get the cast, get the landing, get the catch, get it all. So I can edit that on my phone really quickly, like just sitting there, just scroll through the imagery and create a video and pop it right out. So that's where I've evolved to. I have other cameras in the studio that are worth a lot more, but that's my go-to for the water because I needed simplistic. I needed something that got all the angles. And that's just
it
where I
doesn't
landed.
overheat like the go.
Mm-mm, no, I mean, not yet. It
Yeah.
hasn't. No, I do it on loop mode, so it does like 15 minutes.
Oh, they have 15-minute loops.
Yeah,
Cool.
so then I could just go ahead and catch something or fry. Like my
Guilty
latest.
GoPros, I could only run it in looping. If I tried to get it to run all day, like the Tacticams, it kept overheating and shut off. But it seems like I've been running it in the 8 anyways. I've been using in the
Mhm.
looping mode, and it's been working all right last couple tournaments anyways.
Awesome. Well, I know there's tons of people out there would love to see videos of what you got going on. I know that like Country Kids Outdoors, Steven, he'd love to see your camping rig and
Yeah, I've
what you
done
do.
videos on the camper rig. I did a video with Jeff on it, and I got
Hmm.
several on my Instagram, just stuff on my phone, going over all that on my Instagram and Facebook. You could see I've done several videos on that.
I'll have to go check it out. I did a deep dive. I went back in the YouTube years where you were doing your bass fishing and your striper fishing. I watched those videos. I made a full day of today watching some of your past
Really
podcasts as well
cool.
as stuff like that, just to
Thanks.
get versed into what's going on. And Yeah, like I said, and all of them, I could tell your passion is the lure making as much as the fishing because
Totally.
yeah, it's there. So one day I think we're going to see a nice lineup from you somewhere. It's going to be
Doing a video of lure making would be something that I've thought about at some point. Maybe that would be
yeah.
an idea.
Or it could be your classes. You could teach that. It could be your give back and make money when it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-oh. Let's see here. Tell him. Steven's going to be at the Susquehanna.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. He'll probably, if you hear somebody knocking on your window when you're sleeping.
He was there last year, wasn't? I think I remember talking to him at the boat ramp.
Yeah, probably.
Last year. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I hope you've had a good time.
Yeah, great time, Roy. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you've done for me in the magazine. I appreciate everything you do for the industry. I think that you're a great asset to fishing, and you will continue to be so. So
Thanks,
I'm going to go ahead and thank you again. I'm going to put you in the background, say goodbye to everyone, then I'll come back on with you.
See you guys.
All right, everyone. I appreciate you all tuning in. This was episode 25 with Rus Snyders. It's an amazing story. He's done some great things, and I can't wait to see where he goes and what more he does. If you guys get an opportunity, please go to snakerivermanufacturing.us and check out all the things that Steve is working on. He's quite the innovator that is taking kayak trailers to the next level. Also, go to vibekayaks.com and you can check out all of the inflatables, all the tournament rigs, and even the throw and goes for you and the family. Get in there and get yourself a nice kayak. Also, Cafe 20 is the code at kayakcafe.com. You get 20% off some amazing coffee. Smells great. I have no shame in doing that because it is awesome. So thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.